Hello in Maine. If you are on, Dawn, good to see you. We are going to finish off a very big scene. I wish I had some deciduous trees in here. A little bit more, I don't know. I was going to say I could add them in here, but I've already filled it in with all the evergreens in the background here, so maybe a little bit too late for that. And maybe it's just too big to kind of get too ambitious with the potential color scheme on this. But anyway, we are starting a little bit early here because I need to take off at in a couple hours. It seems kind of strange to say that, but this is, after all, the equivalent of 8 regular size scenes in here. So quite an effort in terms of our coverage that we're going to be needing here. Let's see. So this is an 11 by 17 tabloid size piece of paper here, and there's a lot of things that we need to cover in this scene. And one of the things about working this large is it's how do you approach something like this, okay? And my approach for this is going to be the same way that I approach any scene for the most part. Hello, Diana. Good to see you. And that's picking out some sort of lighting scheme in here. Maybe I'll throw on some light beams into this. I've never worked this large with light beams or something like that, but it might kind of throw in an extra three-dimensional element in this into the composition. We'll see. Hello, PJB Stamper. Hello, Doctor. Hello, Paula. But yeah, so here's what I'm getting at right here. I'm approaching this the same way that I do with anything, okay? I'm going to keep the lighting scheme fairly simple in here, okay? There's going to be some sort of light source in here. And again, you don't have to have officially the light source within the composition. You could have the light source could be represented outside of the composition and coming into the scene, but you generally, it's a good idea to have kind of some general concept of where you want that lighting to go. Now I usually have a single light source, but that's not to say that just everything can't be top lit, or everything can certainly be side lit or something like that. But I think that to simplify scenes, even on something very small, keeping things really simple is a good idea. Just in terms of the approach, it makes it nice and easy. Hello, Jeannie. All right, so this is a big scene, and it's fairly warm and dry out here in sunny San Diego, meaning that as I start approaching this is going to be dye-based inks on here. And I'm going to start off with Memento Inks. Okay, now even when I'm starting off with something fairly small, at least in terms of the layered dye-based ink approach, I generally like to start off with Reinkers, because I think it makes my life a lot easier. You get a lot more coverage just by putting a few drops of Reinker fluid on whatever your applicator is, okay? So now I just pulled these two out right here just so people can see what they are, but that's Summer Sky and London Fog, okay? I still don't know exactly what hue I'm going to be doing in here, or, just a general type of color scheme. But I figure with these two right here, I can still apply those and it'll be kind of light enough and somewhat, I don't know if the word is generic enough, but I could still manipulate them into whatever, particulars I want to move the scene in. All right, so Reinkers, let's get into this, okay? Let's see. You can start with either color. They're very light in value. Let's go with something more neutral. Let's go with the gray, okay? So the London Fog, here's my Reinker for that. And again, I was mentioning the temperature because as I start applying these, I like to have my inks and surface a little bit damp. I don't know how possible that's going to be when doing this. I might get halfway across this, and this area over here might be dry by the time I start working over here. So I don't know. We'll just see how it goes. Where you are, where you are, it matters in terms of the if there's like the extremes of weather, especially. Okay, if it's moderate humidity, temperature, everything like that, then a lot of things are very similar. But I don't know. It's like summer here, so it's warm and reasonably dry. Not as dry as it would be in Nevada or Arizona or something like that. Utah, New Mexico. Okay. All right. So here's the thing. This is one of the things that occurred to me when working on something this size. In terms of people's approach to coloring and lighting, I don't know how you guys see it, but I don't know if you kind of approach things. How do you look at your different imagery and areas on your scene? Are you looking at them in terms of, okay, when you're going to color something, are you thinking about that object being, let's say, a mountain in this case? Or are you looking at this area that you're going to be toning in as just in general area in regards to lighting? Is it going to be a fairly well-lit area or a dim one? Or are you thinking about it in terms of, I got to color that mountain dark in that space? I mean, there's no right or wrong. You can approach it either way, okay? And either way, you would come out with, good results. They might just be a little bit different, okay? In terms of that, I don't know, kind of the overall vision of an area. Okay, now, a lot of us, it's not just one thing or another. It might be kind of the oscillation of both. I might be thinking about, okay, this area over here is going to be a little bit darker than this area where I'll have my light source, okay? So you're kind of thinking about it in terms of maybe a darker area and getting lighter in here. And then you get into your specific areas like, okay, I'll leave, some of these mountain peaks a little bit lighter throughout the object or area of objects, okay? So that being said, I really hadn't thought about that too much before, but I think that really comes into play a lot of times, because when a lot of other types of coloring, you are thinking about objects specifically and the differentiation of colors within that object, within the outlines of stamps. Okay, if people are doing a lot of outline styles of coloring. Okay, yeah, I'm with you, Jeannie. I think it's both ways as well, and I think it's, we might be approaching it, in a certain way, and then we might oscillate back and forth like that. Hello, Candy. All right, so see, I'm kind of going in here. I'm not being too careful about my placement of this color. I am leaving, retaining some lights in here. I might end up toning them out later. I might end up regretting toning some areas. I don't know if that's the word, but because I don't know if I run into that. I generally just kind of keep going along with what I want. I guess if there's an area that I want to kind of lighten up in some area, and I don't realize that until the end, it's like, oh, okay, I have to apply more white pigment ink in that area now, when I could have just left it the white of the page, that type of thing. All right, so anyway, let's go in here. Okay, so this water, it's going to be real easy. We'll just have an area down here that's a little bit more illuminated. Okay, so something like this in here, but we'll put some striations across here. And we'll start it with this, okay? So you can see it's a fairly light tone of gray. Mementos, and I guess I could say basically any brand of ink other than Marvy. It's fairly thick in viscosity in comparison to Marvy tones, okay? All right, so something like this. We're going on our rocks right here. And I'll retain some areas of lightness within that space. I want to zoom out, so you guys can see everything that's going in. But when I zoom out, it's just so far away from this. It's such a big, composition here. So When did we stamp this out? Was it 2 days ago or something? But all of this ink, of course, is dry. I am finding a little bit of dragging of some ink on here where the ink was very wet and a lot of it stayed very surface oriented, so I might be able to see a tiny bit of smearing. Like, you can see where I went across here, and can you see that little drag mark right there? Now that would show up if this is the only color that I'm going to be applying on here, okay? But there's going to be a lot more tone laid on here. I haven't even gotten to the lightest of blue yet, you know? So don't worry about things like that. Now, if you're dragging off a gigantic smear of something like that, then you might want to think about something like a StazOn ink or something like that. You know, we talked about that in the previous video, and that might be, I was telling someone that might be something that I just kind of switch over to, just because of the just the sheer amount of variation that people can run into with different brands of cardstock and inks, and the location where people are, you know, in terms of drying time of inks. You know, one of the great equalizers would be if, you know, all of our inks dried very quickly for us, and were also, you know, they weren't the types that would smear when in use with water-based inks. So that's your solvent inks like a StazOn. So I don't know. I have to think about that, and I have to do a lot more experimenting with that. Okay, now this is completely dry here. Well, not completely. I can still get a little bit of tone out of it. Yeah, maybe I can get more. Okay, I thought it was getting a little bit too dry. It's still applying in there. So anyways, see that it's the benefit of is Katahdin in there. Katahdin is one area in Maine that when I had that whole week off, I thought, okay, I'm not going to spend the whole time in Acadia, so I was reading up on Katahdin, and I don't know. I didn't make it over there. I got stuck in Acadia for that whole week, and I could have spent another week in there absolutely fine, not been bored at all. But yeah, that one's Katahdin right there, maybe. The owners of the Penn Ventures in West Rockport were saying, well, hey, you got to be careful if you go up there, you know, people get, you know, injured and, you know, whatnot up in Katahdin. All right, so adding in, but anyways, you see the, you know, the benefits of Reinkers. I mean, this is like right here, that would be like 8 scenes, okay, and that's, I applied the base layer of 8, you know, the equivalent of 8 quarter-page cards in, you know, not too much time, and I'm blabbing away, you know, here, stopping a lot, but, you know, that it goes fairly quickly like that. All right, I'm starting to get fingerprints already. I'll try to be mindful of it to some extent. Like I said, I don't worry about it too much. All right, and I don't worry about the application of this too much. If I over ink with a really, really light value of color, it's not a big deal, you know, because it is so light. Okay, so going back to the viscosity though, these inks are fairly thick, and the thicker the ink, they're not so easy to apply once you get a big layer of, you know, 3 or 4 colors down at times. And you especially realize it when you're working on a very small card, you know, quarter-page card, you know, when that buildup gets, you know, fairly extreme. But on something like this, I don't think I'm going to be able to build up the color too much in here, retaining kind of an element of dampness throughout the process. It's just too big. It's too warm and dry here right now. So I don't know. I'll probably be doing some micro adjustments to my technique while we're doing this right here. So anyway, do you have a post-it note for your non-inking fingers? You mean in terms of, oh, like moving this around? I guess you could. I don't like to have something underneath here too often, okay, when I'm doing that, because it will create a little bit of a ridge wherever that post-it note is, if that's what you mean by that. Now, on the other side, we wouldn't be getting, like, you know, fingerprints throughout the piece either, so I don't know, I guess maybe that would be a, you know, a decent trade-off in there, you know, or reason to have a post-it note or something like that. I think I would do it on foils a lot because I'm just not applying a ton of layers of ink, and it's a very thick application of pigment ink on those foils. And the pigment inks on foils, because it doesn't dry at all, you know, until you heat set it, it's, you know, I get really inky fingers and whatnot. Which I have convinced myself or talked myself into thinking that is part of the fun of foils. You know? You just have to go into a mindset of if something's kind of a little bit of a you know, messier kind of a potential messier pursuit or process or whatnot, just think of it as being, you know, part of the fun, right? So when you see it, it's not like, you know, what is it? Perception is by, what is it? Perception is by contrast or something like that, or just, I don't know, just a change of perception. Okay, so adding it in. That's not too, you know, we're almost there. I got some glare on this right here, but I don't know, this is coming along, you know. I mean, it didn't take too long. We're done here. One of those things I'm always saying in my classes, especially the lighting class, or the first class and the second class, is, you know, a lot of it is about lighting. And it's always, you know, I'm trying to remind people to retain those areas of light within your piece like this. And it's real, you know, because I don't work this size too, I mean, I'm going to be reminding myself of that a lot here, because it's easy to lose track, because, you know, we're working a little bit faster just, you know, naturally, because it's just a bigger piece, you know. And I think, I don't know, I think we have this kind of inclination to get to a certain point within the scene. Some people want to be done, you know, within, you know, the first, you know, couple steps or something like that. But I don't know. I'm probably going to have to think about that a lot, especially in these big open areas like this. But I don't know. Yeah, we don't have to go too dark on this, but I do want this to be, you know, pretty fully rendered here. But okay, I'm looking at this piece, and making my assessments here, blending in fingerprints. Here's my rocks. You know, keep some of your rocks a little bit light in terms of your reflected light in there. Hello, Teresa. Oh, you don't have that, and yeah, I know what you mean. Candy. But that's why I make the voiceover versions, though, too. Instead of watching for 2.5 hours, it's you know, 15 minutes of sped up voiceover and whatnot. But we'll try to work fairly quickly for you, but we don't want to have you get bumped up into overage. Okay, so moving along like this. Okay, so this is a common uniform color. Okay, well, not uniform, but it's a common tone being used as a base coat on this. Okay, so even if you go into a different color range or whatever in the different areas, the different objects, the different range of objects. Okay, like for example, clouds, the mountains, and lake, or something like that. This will act as kind of a little bit of a, it's like a needle and thread type of thing. It's a common element on all of these objects as a base, and that will help to bring continuity to, you know, if you do end up going with different color schemes. You can do that with anything. It doesn't have to be gray, okay? The one that I would use on here, but I haven't gotten around to picking up a Reinker for it yet, is the Distress Ink Antique Linen, okay? The next time I buy this one, I'm going to buy like 2 or 3 bottles of it, I think. All right, because it's just a warm tone. You can use it in, and it's very light. It reminds me of the seashell inks of old. Just very light in value, fairly bright, warm tone. You can take cool colors into it or something like that, blue tones, and it would be just fine. And it's, you know, of course it works in the warm tones too, because it is a warm value there. Post-it note I used on scene left residue. Or scene left. What is that now, Candy? Oh, don't put the stick side on the project. Stick it to your fingers. Oh, really? Wait a minute. The post-it note's on the fingers, so you're touching it like this? Is that what you mean? I'm slow. Can you hear us, Teresa? Hello, Teresa gave 2 hellos. Hello all. Hello to you too. Thanks for joining in. Here's my question here, you know, that I'm asking myself. Do I go in with more of this gray in here? You know what I mean? Because it is just, you know, it's the first color, so usually with the darker tones that I bring in here, they don't go in as far. So it's like, okay, if I want that area kind of, you know, to be a little bit more, I don't know, darker in value or whatnot, I should go in more with the base coat here, so I'm not sure. And also, I was wondering about putting some kind of little character in here. I think I've done that a lot of times on my 11x17, so I was thinking maybe I'm just going to leave everything out of it. No, you know, fisherman or something like that in the scene. We'll just have it all, I don't know, as is. Okay, so see these areas in here where you've left little blotches of, or I've left little blotches of white. That'll be represent some little cloud formations or something like that, or some mist, okay? Yeah, I made a mistake, Geneva. I should have cut this down. I still can. I mean, it wouldn't be bad to. I should cut an inch off of the length and width, or I don't know, whatever the height and width of this, so that you can I can at least mat it on another piece of 11x17 like this. But I don't know. It's a double page spread too, so if someone was going to, you know, mat it or frame it or something like that, there are frames like out there for that size. I would think, you know, I would think a 11x17 wouldn't be hard to find, especially these days. You can just order anything like online in whatever dimension you're going after. But I would imagine places like a Michael's would have a double page spread frame, you know, that would fit an 11x17. Or what you do is you just do it like that. You fold it in half, and it's like a enormous card for someone. An enormous 8.5 by 11. Can you imagine that? That would be insane, huh? Don, I think, you know, is that what you do, Don? That sounds like a good idea. I think if I was to do that on my offhand like this, I'm guessing I would just wear some gloves or something like that. And I think it wouldn't imprint. I think it would absorb into, or I don't know, maybe it'd leave a bigger imprint. Glossy cardstock, Teresa. Oh, okay. Yeah, I missed that post there. Okay. Adding down. Okay, it's getting a little bit darker. I didn't think it would go darker using more of the gray. I know it would get more, saturated in terms of the surface of this, but I'm surprised it's getting quite a bit darker in here. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I put just, such a light coating of it down, just with one application. But yeah, I don't know. I guess there was more potential from that one piece, or from that one value of gray. Okay. All right. Okay. Huh. You know what surprises me on this one color right here? I feel like it's almost, well, I think it could be. It could be a complete lighting statement in this piece just as is. It certainly has a kind of a, I don't know, kind of a mellow, tranquil kind of essence to it. It's still a little bit too busy for me, though, you know what I mean? I'd like to blend in some more of the imagery just so it's not so... I don't know, there's just too much contrast between everything. Like, say, for example, this area in the background right here, it is really similar to this area right here, which you can say it's good in some ways, but I'd still like to have a little bit more of a kind of a merging of form. In other words, you just kind of bring the background up darker, a little bit, like this over here. Let's say this is in the shadows like this, okay? I'm just creating the shadows with my hand like that, but, if we create a little bit more of a vignette like that, it really will connect up the background, or I guess this is the midground and foreground a little bit more. Just so, I mean, you'll still be able to see all the images, but it just won't be so kind of this massive, a significant oscillation between light and dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, like that throughout the objects like that. Does that make sense? A winter storm. It could be. To me, it looks like, I don't know. To me, I've seen a lot of like black and white photography, so to me, it thinks I think of a, I don't know, like an old full frame camera or something like that, where they had to take like a 30-second exposure or something like that, where everything's really still. But that's my frame of reference, though, just in terms of looking at those types of photography pictures. This one guy that I really, I don't know if I follow a lot of, but I look at all of his stuff. Clyde Butcher, he still uses, well, I don't know, he had a stroke a few years ago, so I don't know if he went digital, but I think he was dabbling around in digital, but he was still pretty much one of those guys that goes out and he puts that big hood over, and he's like had this gigantic full frame camera, like Ansel Adams would have been using in Yosemite and wherever back when. He's using that these days. But he talked about some of these photos that he's taken in various locations and maybe going back to that same location. And he's walking out in the swamps, like, you know, carrying all this equipment, like in a raft behind him. And I don't think they're anywhere like near the road or anything like that. But he talks about going back to some of these places like for 5 years and waiting out in these areas, waiting like at WADING out in the water and just waiting for, and then WAITING, waiting for hours to get the right moment. And it's because everything has to be still because the exposure is such a long exposure. So if you have like a little branch or something like that wiggling around in there, it's going to be blurry. So yeah. But that, I don't know. I found that fascinating. I never would have thought that with his pieces, you know, that he was doing that, you know, the extent that some of those photographers have to go through. Okay, so man, this is just insane. I'm just using that one color, and it is really, it doesn't look like it's that. Here's like a full, I don't know, that is pretty dark right there. It looks like darker than the lid here. Maybe I'm picking up a bunch of the black. Maybe that's what's happened here. I think that's what's happened here. These lighter tones like this, so dabbing around like this, I bet you what this happened is I've picked up a lot of the black from the imagery, the impressions. Do you think that's what happened? Hello, Debbie. Good to see you. Candy keeps many pointed cardstock pieces to hold my scene. No fingers. Ah, that is a great sounding process there, idea for stampers who are not lazy like I am. You're saying, Kevin, that, you know, it takes like 2 seconds. So that's what I'm always telling people about certain types of processes. Like a simple post-it note on the back of a foil, you know. I'm not too lazy to do it, but I just don't, you know, I've been doing a lot more live streams, so it's like, I just kind of forgot to, I don't know, put some, you know, some post-it notes next to me or something like that most of the time. Okay, so adding this, okay, so that, I don't know, that's one of those things that surprised me. This is such a big scene. I'm covering so much area. It's really gotten the paper towel quite dark, okay? So, but, you know, what I always tell people is that, you know, if you do get some lifting of tone or something like that, and a little bit of smearing or something like that, the merging of, I don't know, different hues, you know, where you didn't really expect it to, you just, I utilize that a lot of times just to kind of bring a little bit more continuity to things. If things have common colors, remember, common colors, textures, intensity, imagery, anything like that, anything that you can utilize to bring more continuity and harmony to, and thus harmony to the scene overall. That's a good thing. Usually I'm talking about a quarter-page scene too, so on a scene that's so big like this, you know, you want to exercise those same types of habits and goals with your pieces. Because, you know, something like this can be, you know, there could be a lot going on with this piece. It could get very, very busy, I think. So I think, again, you know, if you simplify things in any way, it will, first of all, it makes it easier for us too, right? If things are blending together, we're not kind of fussing around trying to keep them separate, right? This black is on here. I'm just utilizing it to go darker, which I'm going to go darker anyways, so you might as well just use this right here. So like I said, a lot of my mindset in terms of the process is just to keep things as simple as possible and to utilize things that happen along the way that might not be desirable. Now, I don't want a bunch of fingerprints all over in here saying, okay, I'm going to make that fingerprint. Now I don't have to put in rocks or something like that, but You know, the other little things like that, I just don't... I don't see it as a negative. I try to utilize it strategically for some, you know, easier step of the process, okay? All right, so anyways, that is coming along. I think that's it. I'm grayed out. I don't want to use London fog again for another, you know, maybe, you know, till tomorrow at least. I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to be doing another one like this. I don't know when I'm going to be doing a 11 by 17, but, you know, one of those things, you start putting in the final touches on something like this, and oh my gosh, you know, you really like it, and it's like the next 3 scenes are 11 by 17. That's how it goes with me a lot of times. I do want to finish those other pieces. That waterfall one, I want to have this weaving of light beams through these trees, which I've done before, but maybe I'll do it in a different, you know, color scheme like this. So see these little areas in here where that tree didn't stamp out like perfectly? So that's like the perfect opportunity to utilize like a light beam going across there, because it's already kind of, you know, I didn't stamp it out the full way, and it's right here and here. So it's like, that looks like a perfect angle for that. So I would just go with that and utilize that. You know, I mean, it wasn't, you know, intentional, unless it was subconscious, but I don't think I'm, you know, I'm not nearly that good to do that. Okay, so another paper towel here. So look at that, you know, this is just like one paper. Was this the paper towel? Oh, here it is right here. This one was the one right here. So that was like the equivalent of 8 scenes, you know, in some ways. That's not a lot of, you know, this was like a, what was this? This is like a quarter piece of paper towel right there. You can even still use all this too. So, pretty economical, I think. Hello, Heather. It is a big, big, big piece. I don't do these too often. I don't know, but it's not coming along, you know, too slow. Well, I don't know. I did start this. You're kidding me. Did I start this 40 minutes ago? I thought it was 15. And people are going comatose, and I'm saying, yeah, it's, you know, it's fairly fast here. All right. Summer sky. Okay, now, what I was mentioning to people that are on early on, I said, these first couple colors, you know, we're going to be applying so much of this. It's just so much easier just to, you know, utilize the Reinkers instead of these. In fact, if I were buying these 2 colors and going, you know, just from the start, if I didn't have these, I wouldn't even get these pads anymore, I don't think, because I don't really make impressions with these colors because they're just so light. I would just get the Reinkers and I'd be fine, because I use these colors right here almost I think exclusively just to tone these in, okay? Scenes, you know, not just large scenes, but smaller ones, okay? All right, so that being said, you know, talking about the time expenditure right here, the first colors kind of establish the lighting scheme within your scenes. You know, the areas that you're leaving light are going to be your lit areas. I mean, you know, it's no more complicated than that, okay? So that being said, I mean, you can make adjustments still. It's like, oh, I left that, you know, an area that was too light. You know, you can go in with, you know, summer sky here. Oh, you can see where it's picking up some of that black right there already, okay? But, so all the colors from here on, I mean, it shouldn't take as long, okay? I've established lighting, now I'm just doing kind of coloring and trying to remember to retain some of that light. You can't even really tell too much of a difference. See that little blue tinge up there, and here's this gray down here? Now, maybe by the time I get down here and I start applying some of this blue, maybe it's not so blue anymore like that because it has the black on there. I don't know. Let's just see how it goes. But anyways, this is, Heather, this is 11 by 17 if I didn't mention that. So, quite large in format. Tabloid size. I think let's see. Gosh, was the old Rubber Stamp Madness tabloid? It was like this. I don't know if it was this large right here. It was big, though. Especially in comparison to an Inchy. I was thinking about this, too. I was thinking about when I was finishing this off. You know, we looked at this in the previous video when we were composing this, and we were thinking about doing spotlight, and I thought, maybe I'll do a bunch of spotlights in here, you know, and do that. But then, I don't know, this piece right here, it's not really like a card format. It's just too big. Maybe I would do that with like an 8.5 by 11 or something like that, and have just different sizes of you know, those little embellishment elements, within the composition. I thought that would be cool. I still want to play around with that kind of embedding of the different sizes that we took a look at in the previous live stream, that I think would kind of be cool to do. In theory, in application, you know, I don't know, we'll have to see. Okay, so anyways, adding this down, like I said, it did. Yeah, I am getting a little tinge of blue. It's not very much, though. I mean, I could switch up here, but I'm just going to go like this for right now. It's looking a little bit cooler, I think. In terms of temperature, it's just slight, though. Okay, lighting. Source of light coming over that mountaintop, you know. I don't know, it's like maybe like a horizon, I don't know, light source or something like that. I don't know. I mean, the light source could be up here too. And then, you know, the source of illumination could be these. I'm going to have these clouds, you know, it's one of those things where you see those clouds kind of coming over a ridge, and it looks like it's like pouring over it. Something like that in there. So we'll do that with the white pigment ink, I think. It'd be like coming over here into this little valley of the clouds or something like that, maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Dewdrop Memento Reinkers. Does everyone here have mementos? The one thing about the mementos that I always was curious about was, it says fade resistant dye ink, right? And I've always been curious, how fade resistant are they really? You know what I mean? If I put those inks on a scene like this or something, and I took that and I put it in the sun, even for just a couple days, is it really, do you think it would really be fade resistant? I don't know, you know, we'll have to cover it up and then, or, you know, put some paper over the top of one side of a card sometime and see. I'd be really curious about it. One of the things that I used to look at in the back of like oil paints and watercolors. I never worked in acrylics in school. It was always oils and watercolors, in terms of painting classes at least. Was you check on the back and it's the light fastness rating. I forgot how they did it. I forgot if it was on a scale of 1 to 10 or something like that. But when you look at those things, one of the things that was pretty consistent was the brighter the color, you know, i.e. something like this, it had a very low light fastness ratings, you know, so it'd fade out much faster. And then the blue tones were much, you know, or something like that, unless it was a really super bright blue. They had a much longer, or a higher light fastness rating. I don't know, maybe it has, I didn't know if it had something to do with the, what was that, was it the bandwidth? Is it the bandwidth of color? I forgot what it was, you know. Maybe it had something to do with that or something like that, or light absorption, I don't know. But the brighter it was, the less light fast it was. Okay, so adding that down there, more, it's like, okay, there isn't any blue in there at all. Okay, so we'll start moving into that tone, okay, into those blues, hopefully, with this one right here. Let's go with the Bahama Blue. I don't think I have a re-inker for that one. If I do, I don't remember re-inking too often. But let's just see how this one goes. This is going to be really similar to the Marvy number 10 blue, at least in terms of how it looks on the pad. The Marvy one is quite different from the Memento, though. Or, okay, let me do something too. I happen to have a ton of Salvia Blue. Salvia Blue is going to be a little bit darker. Okay, I'm just turning this inside out here, so I won't get so much of that black ink on there. But let's see how this goes right here. Distress inks. How many colors of blue is there in distress ink pads? Are there 5 distress blue pads? I only have 1, I think. Weathered wood. I don't know if weathered wood is really blue though. It looks like it on the cover though a little bit. Okay, a little bit more of a bluish tinge. Okay, let me dab this one too. Okay, if I'm going like this, I'm probably picking up and smearing a little bit, you know, some of the imagery. Let's just use some of this here. Okay, let's go into the water especially. I really want to make this kind of like a crystalline blue lake. I mean, it's dingy right now, you know. But that wasn't the idea. The Caribbean blue. I just re-inked my Caribbean blue before I came on because I was figuring the Caribbean blue down here, that warm tinge would look really good in this lake. You really want your waters to look really nice and inviting, typically. You know, unless you don't want them to, but, you know, water is one of those things that everyone's kind of attracted to, you know. Waterfalls are a destination, and, I don't know, the ocean, lakes, whatever, right? People are drawn to them. So, you know, we don't want them all kind of dingy and like, I don't know, kind of anticlimactic. You know, you want this to be kind of one of those things where someone goes to a lookout point and they're looking over the lake or whatnot. They're taking the time to kind of take it in and whatnot. So let's try to get some kind of let's try to make it nice and inviting. A little bit of this coming. This is not a bright blue by Marvy. A lot of the colors from Marvy are very bright. This one is, you know, it's, I don't know, it's like cornflower. It's salvia blue, but it's just fairly dull. But a good one to start off with, you know, because of it. I wish it was the manganese blue, which Marvy didn't make into a pad. Hello, Tammy. Good to see ya. Thanks for checking out the vid. Welcome. Okay, going in with the Bahama Blue. As I go in here into the shadows, can you see that right there? I've built up enough ink in here. It's removing the ink right in there. So, okay. So I can't drag unless I heat set this a little bit, okay? So I'm going to be doing more dabbing. And then I still want to do that little drag kind of motion like that across here, but I have to let it set up a little bit, okay? All right. So, adding in, this is the equivalent of like 2 kind of lake areas within a card on this. Again, if people have just joined in and they didn't see this, I guess it's a stamp sketch. You know, there was so much time just being taken on the you know, the compositional portion. It seems strange to call this a sketch, but I guess it is. But we were just coloring this in, and one of the things that I was mentioning when I first started here on this card is that, you know, I was asking people if they kind of, you know, how do you approach, you know, the coloring of a scene? Are you thinking about it in terms of, you know, specific objects, or are you thinking about it in terms of areas? Okay. And, you know, I mean, it's probably a little both, but when you think about something in terms of a general area, I think it kind of simplifies the entire process. It doesn't become overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, there's, like, I got to work it, you know, the color around that rock and that rock and that rock, and watch out for that tree, and here's this ledge down here. I'm just thinking in general, you know, it's somewhat lighter right here and darker out here, you know? But that being said, you can retain some areas of light within those spaces like that. 4 different distress blues so far. I might have to... There were a couple of other distress ink blues that I don't think were out there. Now, I'm not going around, like, you know, keeping informed of all the different colors of inks that are out there on the market, but when I think when I first looked at some of those distress, if there were 2, I'm talking about when I was buying pads, I do have the different colors of it in Reinker, like this blueprint sketch that I found. Oh, here's Mermaid Lagoon. Here, I'll use some of these ones right here. Maybe I do have more than I thought. Here's Broken China. I might have forgot that I had those. Like, I can't remember when I used these. I must have, though, because, you know, the bottle is like, I don't know, out of sight, out of mind. I'd say that, but they're right in front of me. Okay, so adding this in. Okay, I mean, you know, this is starting to turn much more blue here, right? And I'm not being super careful about, you know, keeping it off my ledge area here, okay? And, okay, so we have a lot more, I don't know. I'm not going to go into the blueprint sketch here. Does anyone have blueprint sketch? Hello, Froggy Fresh! That blueprint sketch, to me, is I love it. If I get dark enough, maybe I'll use it a little bit, but that is kind of a dangerous ink right there. It really stains and penetrates very quickly. So I have to be careful about that, because if I don't want too much of it, I need to be really careful about my application of it, because most of these inks, like I said, the viscosity of the Ranger inks are generally fairly thick, but, you know, along with the Memento ones. But that blueprint sketch, I don't know, it penetrates and stains very quickly, I think, along with the Prussian Blue. I don't know, is it something with the blue tones? Because the Prussian Blue by Marvia is a super dark one as well, so I don't know. Alright, so going in here, this Bahama Blue is giving me more mileage than I thought it would. I didn't think it would apply so, you know, dark blue like that. Oh, let me do something right here. I think I need to bump up my exposure on my camera a little bit. Okay, there we go. I think that's a little bit more true. Yeah. You want blueprint sketch. It's a pretty good one. I always like those blue tones for... I like blue anyway, okay, in terms of a color. And I can never have enough variations of blue tones as long as they're different from one another. And I really like those dark ones too. I remember there was a description of some item of clothing years ago in some catalog, and it was like the color was dark blue, almost black. And I don't know if I bought the item, but I almost felt like it. I almost felt compelled to buy that item just because of the that name of that color. All right. Huh. That was Memento, Bahama Blue. Like I said, I just didn't think it would get that that blue right over that. You know, again, that's over the top of all that gray and the mixture of gray and black. London fog. I don't know. I applying some of that blue. Maybe I removed some of that London fog. I don't know. Okay. Paula likes the Prussian Blue. That's one of my favorites. I use it all the time, and let me see. Was that? Okay, that pad there. I think I found this pad somewhere. I had like an extra one, but yeah, that one I didn't want my pad to be disintegrating. I mean, I can try that trick where people switch out. Whoa, look at that Caribbean blue there. That is really visible on here. Oh, it's because I just re-inked that too. So, okay, see that? Where it's really dragging that out? Be careful about that. So there's too much ink there. So what you do is you just, just use a different area, or I don't know, switch out right there. Okay, so I'll just spread that out like that, because if I just keep spreading with that same application, it's going to get over here and it's going to be a solid application of Caribbean blue, like a full saturation. What I mean by that is, I'm going to go over here and that's going to be like super, super dark in this area that I want it to be light. So just be a little bit, careful about that. Be aware of, how much ink is on your applicator like that, which in my case was too much. Okay, but, I forgot from 10 minutes ago that I re-inked that really juicy, apparently. Maybe it didn't need to be re-inked, but I re-inked it anyway, knowing that I was going to be applying quite a bit of it in here. Yeah, little kind of turquoise color, huh? Okay, I need to bring some of this Caribbean blue. It's creating a little bit too, strong of a water side line without having any of that Caribbean blue in the rocks. So I'm going to come up into the rocks a little bit with that, or a lot, okay? It's not that I want blue rocks, but I just don't want there to be such a strong distinction between those rocks and that color. Otherwise, it kind of looks a little bit separate. And I'll come in here and I'm going to be putting in some more tone over those rocks too. But I think I'll need some of that. I don't know, maybe that reflected blue light, on my rocks in there. Okay. Oh, you can't see blue, huh, Froggy Fresh? I always thought it was the big ones were the red and what was it, green or something like that? Huh. You're a Virgo and drawn to them. Is there a color for the zodiac? Probably, huh? For some reason, I think my color was orange as a Leo, but I've always been drawn to the blue tones, the cool spectrum. My favorite color as a kid was purple, and thus my purple crayon was always just a little nub. And then someone had that gigantic crayon set, and I think it came with silver. I was like, oh my god, look at that silver. But that wasn't my favorite color, but having some kind of metallic looking color in that, it was like a big luxury, and it had the built-in eraser. I didn't have that one though, that crayon set. Okay, so anyways, the brightest of tones are oftentimes in the shadows, okay? So that's where I usually aim for my brightest of tones. Brightest of tones, again, it's not the lightest of tones. The brightness means the relative intensity of something, not the relative value of something from light to dark, okay? So, adding in a decent amount of that into the shadows, okay? Like about like so. I'm kind of deciding if I want to go with like a bluish sky up there too. I'm not sure. Or if I want to go with a different color scheme up there. I don't know what. I'm not sure. Did I say hello to Beth? Hello, Beth, if I didn't say that. I get distracted when I'm working on scenes. I can't remember what I said, you know, 30 seconds ago. Froggy Fresh is hungry. Red is Jeannie's least favorite color, huh? There's a lot of stop signs out there in the world, Jeannie. But I probably don't use red very often. Sunset scenes or something like that. Or that last scene, that last mirror card piece. Man, I love that red on that one for that Aurora Borealis. It was the deepest red I've ever been able to achieve. And I realized why. It's because I went with red and a full saturation of it, then I used some black over it, but then I went back in with the red again. And who would have known, you know, that it would kind of get an even dark, richer, deeper red than it was before. I thought, you know, full saturation, you know, there was nowhere else to go, but apparently there was, at least in terms of that composition. Okay, so going in here and adding that in like that, okay. Red seems too garish, huh? What is red? If someone wears red, it's supposed to, you know, have like a, I mean, it's like passion or something like that. Sapphire is the birthstone. Oh, of September. Oh, it's the month, huh? Okay. Oh, yeah. I think July is ruby. And that's red. So, Jeannie, does that mean you hate July then? All right, let's see. We're moving into... Okay, that was the Caribbean Blue. I don't know if this one's going to do anything or not. That Caribbean Blue and this... That looks like it's darker, doesn't it? I find the value of these two aren't incredibly different from one another. I'm going to use the same applicator so I get maybe some kind of version of both of them or something like that. Oh, Laura, there must be something to that because someone else mentioned that. Who else saw the storm coming? Oh, that is nice and bright there. That's a little bit different right there. So Froggy, is it all colors, or do you know, is it easier to see some? The blue has the shorter wavelength, I think, than the reds, I think. The red had, I remember red had the shortest wavelength of all. But that's why they have red as stop signs and, you know, stop lights and stuff like that. But the reason why construction things are like that is because I think it's yellow had a short wavelength, but it also has the contrast in there. So contrasting against black was more attention getting, I think, than red and white or something like that. I forgot. I'm trying to remember my color theory lessons that I took, not gave. All right. Ooh, that is really getting deep right in there. Okay. Yeah, water certainly can reflect the colors of the sky, that's for sure. There are certain areas, though, where you look at like a photograph and the sky isn't nearly as deep and emerald looking as the sky. Where's Laura? Havasupai Falls, you know. I think that's in Arizona. Some of those lakes up there, some of those like alpine lakes look like a blue-green, you know, or something like that. And it seems like they have that tinge to them. I don't know if it's minerals in the lake or something, you know, the chemistry of that, but it could just be like a, you know, powder blue sky. But the lake color could be, you know, like that. It, you know. The Sea of Cortez, too, some of the photos that I've seen like that, you see, you know, Sea of Cortez, people kayaking out there in that kind of blue-green, crystal clear water, you know. Really amazing looking. It makes you want to be a kayaker. Does anyone kayak here? I'm joking, Jeannie. I hardly use, like I said, I hardly use red. I might, this spectrum right here, I mean, I can't remember the last time I've re-inked those inks right there. I mean, I use them, though. Like I said, like in a sunset scene or something like that, but they're just not a, like a super dominant color, you know, within my I don't know, color schemes that I'm typically working with a lot. So, all right. So, anyways, that is that right there. Oh, we're gonna get it darker. We'll move into that Prussian blue and whatnot in there. And then, who was it? You know, someone when he wants to get that Prussian blue, you can decide if you like it or not. Sometimes the Prussian blue it's that color that's going to kind of move a certain color scheme. You know, I don't know. It's that, maybe because it's close to black or something like that, and we stamp out the colors in black a lot. Oh yeah, I was going to use some of this too. Let's use a little bit of Mermaid Lagoon and see if that does anything at all. I think I've gone beyond the broken china, okay? I don't think that broken china, you're going to be able to see anything in there, okay? I mean, the whole idea is not to use, you know, 20 blues in this scene or something like that, too. I don't want to do something like that. But, all right. This is getting fairly saturated right there. See that drop of it right there? If you need to kind of just blend it out a little bit like that, okay, push it back into your applicator, and let's see how this goes. It's a little bit darker. Huh. I don't know if it's just because of the sheer amount of ink on there, or if it is indeed a darker value of blue. I think it worked out pretty good, you know? I guess if you have it, you know, test it out. You know, the worst that can happen is you apply it down there and you don't see it doing anything, then just, you know, move on to the next tone, I guess. That's what a lot of people would ask me in my my workshops. You know, they would get to a certain, I don't know, color or value within their color scheme, and they would, you know, they'd be thinking about it and holding a pad or something like that, not sure if they want to go darker. But I always say, just what you do is you just apply it in a little bit of an area, and if you like it, and then just use more. Okay, you want to use it in here or something like that. And just doing it like that, you know, it's kind of hard to tell what that color is going to look like over all these other colors. You can see what it's going to look like on a white piece of paper, but you really can't tell, you know, what it's going to look like, because it is transparent, and, you know, the other colors underneath are going to show through. This is where I would have liked to have had that warm tone in this area right in here. Okay, you wouldn't be able to tell the antique linen out in this area. Antique linen, if you just joined in, was it's a color of distress ink. I'm just saying antique linen. The old paper would probably be fine too. It's just a really light, kind of warm tone. Let's see, what did you used to see blue and green and purple? Oh, okay. The yellow, red tones in those colors. Interesting, huh? Are you going out for the holiday weekend? If by going out you mean hauling my kid around to the gym every day and waiting for him for like 3 hours while he works out, then I am going out. In fact, today, I got to leave a little bit early today because I got to take him back for open gym. I'm just glad it's a nice, healthy activity, sport. He's not just going and working out at the gym. It's a parkour gym. It's like, you know, practically like, it's almost like gymnastics in a way. But why does that gym have to be a half an hour away, one way? I don't know. Anyone else going out for, you know, 4th of July, doing anything? Are you traveling now that gas is so cheap, you know? I'm joking. But yeah, anyone doing anything kind of fun, anyone going to anywhere out in nature. If you went to any like national park or something like that these days, it'd be so zoomed out. Okay, this is in the number 3, Marvy. Okay, look at this. It's not applying at all because this area in here is just so saturated, but it's this tone of blue. Oh, maybe it isn't that tone of blue. It looks still like the lighter tones. I'm dabbing in like this, and this applicator, this paper towel is probably super saturated with the other inks, so it's just not getting any darker. That's where we got to pull out the Prussian Blue, I think. The Prussian Blue, I don't know, it's like a thinner ink too. Let me see, Laura, you were mentioning the Tetons. The scene looks like the Tetons, but a few too many, yeah, few too many mountains. Yeah, the range is a little bit, see that right there? See that? That Prussian Blue penetrates, no matter how much ink you have built up, this Prussian Blue transfers, okay? So it's like that one tone, okay, that can seem to do that a lot. It's also why when I use Prussian Blue, my fingers get really stained, okay? Now, I have that pumice sponge that just takes it right off, but if I didn't have that, and I, wasn't using that, it's really hard to get this ink off the fingers. And I have the feeling it's the same thing with that blueprint sketch distress ink. I don't know if you guys have kind of noticed that in terms of, I don't know if it's the viscosity of it. I don't know. Just there's something to the chemistry of those ones. I don't know if it's just happened to be coincidence or if it's blues in general or something like that. Yeah, the 4th of July block party at your house, though, huh? Oh, got it. That is convenient if you can see it right from your house there, the fireworks. All right, see how much that Prussian Blue is really transferring onto that? I can just do that little wispy swipe like that, and it really shows up. See these right here? Prussian Blue. Okay, maybe I should use the blueprint sketch. Or try it. Let's just try it, okay? We've already used 20 blues on this. We might as well give it a try. I haven't used 20 blues on it if you've just joined in. We've just used 15. All right, so I don't know. It's kind of coming along here. Like I said, it would have been nice to have a little bit of warmth in here. I could still, I just don't have the Reinker for it. Maybe I have enough of that. On the pad itself. Okay, I think I stopped re-inking the pad when I just started using a lot more of the, the Reinker fluid directly on the paper towel. But let's see here. Let's see, daughter's neighborhood has a block party. Okay. Oh, yeah. When there's those sports things going on, huh? That's like the priority to everyone, to the family. No stamping, the park eating out. Got it. A lot of yellow tones in that color. Oh. Froggy Fresh, that Caribbean blue is a very warm blue. I don't know where it would be in between like green and blue. It'd be more predominantly towards the blue spectrum, but it does go quite a bit into the green because it's fairly light as well. So you're probably picking up a lot of that warm tone in here. That's what I'm guessing. I don't know. But let's see if I have a little bit of antique linen. This is looking a little bit stark to me. And then also I can bring some of this on the mountains if I can. Okay, well, I have a little bit of it here. All right, there we go. This is really going to be, I'm going to be smearing some stuff again. Or maybe I don't know, maybe I've already rubbed off what I'm you know, mostly going to be rubbing off on here in terms of some of that residual surface ink. Okay. I don't know. Can you guys see that? Maybe Froggy Fresh can see that. Yeah. But a little bit of warmth like that. See that right there? See, doesn't it? I don't know. Can you tell the difference in that temperature tweak to this? You know, everything was fairly neutral to. I mean, the water got a little bit warm, but oh yeah, see that right there? A little bit of black on that applicator. But see this right here? To me, I think that is a little bit more of a richer temperature. You know, we've tweaked the temperature range in here by putting this down there, and it's not a big commitment to warmth or this orangish beige tint, you know, because it is so light. So something like that, you know, those distress inks are really good for that. Sometimes I've wondered what else those super light tones are good for. They're almost like shadow stamping inks, which I love for scenic stamping as things like these base layer tones, okay? But, you know, I'm at coloring at full saturation with it. It's like barely visible, so I've often wondered what people use those really light tones for in other types of applications and card making, stamping, you know. It seems like they would have to go more towards like the mid-tones or something like that for it to really be visible. Okay, so I'm adding it in these areas here first, you know, because again, if I add it in a darker area, I can see, kind of get the gist of it a little bit more than by putting it just in a wide open area like that where it might be too, you know, prominent of a contrast, even though that's very light, okay? But sometimes doing these really light tones like this, when you're going into a completely different something, a different hue, a different intensity, in this case it's a different temperature, it can stand out a lot. So you kind of want to put it in an area. You apply something in an area where it's not going to show up too much, and then you kind of get the gist of it a little bit, and then move it over into these lighter areas like that. And it's not going to, I'm going to apply other colors in there, but I think this warm tone like this is opening up some more possibilities for me to come in here with other colors now. It's like that transition color, like, I don't know, like a greens or pinks, you know, stuff like that, you know, rather than just putting pink right over that where it would be more like purple or something of that sort, of like a violet, right? So let's try this right here and see how it goes. Okay, let's switch this up. Let me not use that blackened antique linen. You got the party house there, Froggy Fresh. You got the view. You got the pool. Cuban grill. Oh, they grill for everyone. I was going to say, do you have also, you got the view, you've got the biggest pool, you have the steaks and lobster tank at your house too. All right, so see that right in there? I don't know if you can tell. Can you see that in the in this feed right here? It's not so stark, just white in there anymore. But I mean, it barely shows, right? But see, I think that looks more full that way, just by putting in something really light like that. Okay, now where else, you know, stuff like on these rocks, a little bit of warm tinge to it, right? Especially if you retained a little bit of the lightness of it. Okay, but see, I hope this, I don't know if you can tell right here, but see these rocks, this 11 by 17, I gotta move everything around on the table for this to really fit here, but see, here, let me put some of this right over here, and we can do a little comparison, contrast type of thing, okay? So see this rock right here, it's all in grays and whatnot. Can you tell the difference between that and like these areas right here? Okay, I mean, you can tell it up here in this area, but even, I'm talking about these grays down here. Doesn't it look a little bit more of a complex color scheme, just having that tiny bit in there, you know, I think that makes it, oh, I don't know, just a little bit more full looking. Okay, let me put this in here as well. Okay, see this right here? Yeah, little tinge of that tone in there. So again, I consider this like a base layer color, even though we're applying it over the top of something else, but it really, it's not a prominent tone in here. In fact, if I was showing this to someone, I don't know if they would think that there was this color that was used within the scene, you know, because they're just going to see like a warm gray or something like that, you know, in the end result. Let's see. Hello, Beverly. Lobster's pinch. Oh, you live on a lake in Center Harbor, New Hampshire. That sounds like a nice visual there and location. I was talking to someone else about watching a video of this guy going fishing when I was stamping a scene out, but he was in New Hampshire, you know, fly fishing these streams there. Because I was wondering, where is that? You know, because I always try to guess where a certain location is domestically. I can't tell internationally, but just from the trees of a given location, I had no idea where it was, and I looked on the description, it was New Hampshire. Okay, so adding some of this onto the mountains. The mountains, too, don't look quite as anemic here, I think. All right. I want a lake, too. All right, adding some of that into that mountain right there. It's still light, but it has a little bit of temperature to it and additional, I don't know, kind of form, I guess you can say. I'm trying to think, as I'm doing this, I'm wondering, as I'm going over this, I'm thinking, the thing that I'm thinking in my head is the next color going to be black? Okay. And I want to bring in some other tones in here too, so like I said, something like a pinkish tinge or something like that. This is looking a little bit too crazy in here in terms of the blue, but the black is going to be a little bit more of a unifying type of tone in here. It'll shade things in a little bit more, so that's my hope here, you know. And I wouldn't have any question about that at all if this weren't 11 by 17, you know. I have to see if I you know, if what I can do on a full page scene, a quarter page scene, I can do on a 11 by 17. I mean, it's the same kind of concept, but you know, if you just, I just don't work in this size very often. I'm trying to think. I was trying to think in my last, you know, when we did this composition here, how many 11 by 17s I've done, and I don't know, 5. I was trying to remember. Oh, you shovel snow so that the grandkids can ice skate. Oh, that sounds really nice. Okay, let's see how this is going to go. I'm going to bring in a little bit of orchid. I think there's another color that's even better for that, but was it this one right here? Deep lilac. Let me try the deep lilac. Okay, now there's probably some Memento colors or something like that that would be even more ideal. Or I can move into, here's a desert sand right here. Let me try a little bit of that. It's kind of related to the antique linen in a way. This might have a little bit more of a pink into it, you know, but only slightly. This one has a little bit more warm and yellow. See, I'm just wondering if that will be kind of a transition color again into something else. Let me try it a little bit. Okay. Here. I don't know if I see anything happening with this one at all. Sorry about the glare on this. There we go. Yeah, you see it. Okay, it's a little bit different. All right. Okay, let's see. Once you cook the lobster, it will no longer pinch. That is true. And that's a Maine lobster. You can get like a California lobster. They don't have those gigantic pinchers on them. Okay. Thank you, Debbie. Let's try this. I was thinking about the deep line. Like, let's just go into this one right here. Okay, here's what I'm uncertain about this color, if I want to use it or not. So again, if you're not certain about it, don't use it in full strength, okay? Just take it down a lot. And here's what I'm going to say too, just so that if this looks like horrific, I bring in a lot of things like white pigment ink into my pieces afterwards to blend a lot of things together so it doesn't look so prominent or visible, you know? And that saves me a lot of times with, you know, the things that I do with coloring. Everyone thinks that I do a really great job coloring or whatever. And I stick to my process, but it doesn't always look good. In fact, a lot of times it doesn't look good. Just the coloring. So I just, you know, do what I do with the, you know, white pigment inks. And it really obscures the weaker aspects of those applications there. Yeah, you have me thinking about those. You have me thinking of hot dogs right now. You're talking about that grilling and fireworks and things like that. What do people like more, hot dogs or hamburgers? I'm not just throwing that out there. I've wondered about this recently because when I've had like options for people, you know, my son's friends or something like that in the past, you know, we often had them, you know, cooking it themselves. We had those little tabletop grills, you know, even when they were little kids, and they can choose a hot dog or hamburger. The hamburgers seem to win out like, I don't know, 8-1 or something like that. You know, if the kids wanted a hot dog at all. Where I think when I was a kid, I don't know, we liked hamburgers and stuff like that at like McDonald's, but cooking it at home, I don't know. I think it was 50-50. Okay, so here's a little bit of that purple tinge like that. I think that looks pretty good like that. But see, it matches that, it goes over that warm tinge a little bit more. Someone mentioned Purple Mountain's Majesty too. Who said that the last video? Are you still in here? But it got me thinking. I thought, I want to bring a little bit of a purple tinge into this piece like that. Both, okay. Yeah, I like, for me it's both. We eat more burgers, though, than hot dogs, because my son doesn't, you know, he doesn't like hot dogs, so... as a family, we just don't eat them as often. As a mom, grandma, etc., I believe Kevin has an exceptional wife. Oh. She's a good one. Okay, let's see. I like both, but go for burgers. Darcy's slightly on the burgers side, but probably if you had like burgers, like, you know, like 3 burgers in a row, and if you had a choice, maybe you'd go for the hot dog type of thing. But not boiled hot dogs, okay. You like a grilled or fried or something like that. You maybe like it with like a little bit of a browning or something like that. I think at Dodger Stadium, when I used to go with my friend, he knew that stadium really well. And on one deck, it's boiled. But then if you go down a deck, the hot dogs down there were grilled. So we'd go for the grilled ones. And then we stopped getting Dodger dogs at all. We started going for these red hots when they came out with them. These kind of little spicier ones. Okay, so anyways, adding that in. I don't want them like perfectly like super purple or anything like that, you know. All right, let's see. Yeah, I'm with you, everyone here, on that that little bit of char, or a lot charred, you know. Vegan burgers, yeah, those are good too. Okay, adding that in. That sky is starting to come together a little bit, huh? Let's bring some of this tone around in here a little bit more. I don't think I've done this color scheme up here before. I might have, but I don't remember. It's looking a little bit different to me. I'm not done with it, but kind of getting there, though. But anyways, you see what I mean? You know, if you're uncertain about a certain tone, then you just kind of blot it off, so you're using a much weaker version of it, and then use it in a darker area where you can kind of just barely see it coming about, okay? And then if you like it, then you can always add more. But you can always kind of get a hint of what that color is going to look like over the top of all of your other colors, and you don't have to make like a big kind of commitment to that color or color blend or whatever. Hello, Cheryl. Good to see you. I see that little Build-A-Bear guy right there. It was interesting to me how someone in one of those previous live streams said, I thought I recognized that little guy, you know, from Build-A-Bear. It's like, wow, someone knew that. See, I thought it was Curious George. That's what I saw. Grilled, broiled, fried, anything but boiled for Laura. Huh. All right, let's see here. All right. I think we're almost ready for another tone. I think, okay, now here's the thing. It's one of those things about the reflecting of that colored light within the water. Now I will bring, this has a lot of black into it, right now. Maybe I should switch up to a clean area right here, like so. Oh, yeah, I'm with you. We're directly over the fire like that. Oh, that's the same thing at Yankee Stadium, huh? That's interesting. Boil, then grill for char. Oh, that's interesting, too. These days, does everyone have an air fryer these days? When those things first came out, I thought, what are you talking about? That's just a convection oven. But, I don't know, air fryers, though. We're doing all of our, so many things in the air fryer now. Okay, see that little tinge of violet right down in there, like that? Okay, and I'll come from this way in this way, okay? So there we have that little bit of a continuity between that and that area up there, all right? It's still a little bit too crazy around here with the blue. It's just too intense, okay? So I'm going to mellow that out again, like I said, with black, okay? And then we'll put some of this into these areas on my rock. It's just a little bit of a hint of some of that tone right down in here, okay? So again, it's one of those things. It's a big scene right here, so if you utilize, I mean, you don't have to. I mean, these rocks could be just a completely different color scheme, and never the, you know, what is it, you know? The two areas will never, you know, never merge at all. For me, when I do this kind of continuity of tone like that, I don't really have to be so careful about my placement because, you know, I get some of this blue in my rocks, some of this purple in my water, in my rocks, and down here. Again, so I don't have to do like a super careful placement of anything. I do like the looks of that though, okay? And every time I do see someone where they have really distinctly colored a certain area or objects completely different from the surrounding area, I tend to think, oh wow, that looks so crystalline, and I don't know, the differentiation between all those spaces, which is kind of going against what I generally do, but every time I see it, from some people have that style, I think it looks really good. Yeah, that's telling my age. Yeah, I don't know. I saw some of those. They didn't. I don't know if any. You know, my son wasn't reading Curious George, but the animated Curious Georges were on when he was a little kid. He wasn't into it though. You know, we showed it to him. We need a man with the yellow hat, right? Okay. Boils them before grilling or boiling to remove some of the salt. Oh, huh. That's interesting. So it's like you boil them for a while though, right? If you're going to be removing the salt out of it like that. Like hit it for like 5 minutes or something of that sort, and then you just brown them off. Yeah, we tossed out our air fryer. It was a night. That's one of those things, huh? The clean of the air fryer. Although, I don't know, ours cleans up pretty good, but I don't try to get it like completely clean. It almost looks like the interior of our air fryer, the basket looks like, it looks like a cast iron pan, you know, it's like seasoned, you know. See, when you come to the Stampscapes channel, you know, we're talking about hot dogs and food and all that fun stuff, you know, food and stamping, you know. That reminds me of retreats, you know. When you go to like a stamping retreat, you remember the stamping, but I don't know, for some reason I remember like everywhere we went out to eat. When we were in Chicago, it was like deep dish. It wasn't deep dish pizza. It was the stuffed crust, or it's stuffed pizza or something like that. And there were Italian beefs. Was that what it's called, or something like that? Maine, you know, lobsters and lobster lobster rolls, right? Okay. Maryland, when I taught at this store called Trifles, it was crab cakes. If you were in a live stream before, I think I've mentioned this before, when we used to go to these different conventions around the country, when we were coming up on that next show or something like that. And we were doing a lot of them, like 2 a month somewhere, but it was always like, okay, where are we going to eat, you know, when we go there again? Or are we going to eat at that, you know? And then we pretty much, after a few years, you kind of, I don't know, even like a couple of years, you kind of, okay, let's go, you know, we're going to eat at that one, you know, restaurant again after the show. All right, so adding in the black, okay? So here's what this is looking like right here. It needs a little bit of a, I don't know, some kind of a clarity, but do you see that little pink down there, that little violet? Okay, but here's where I was talking about, you know, there is still a lot of contrast in here going on in some of these areas. And we're going to kind of unify a lot of these elements. You see, you know, when you have it in a little bit of shade like that, you know, it doesn't look so busy when you bring up the background darker and moving it towards. I'm not trying to obscure everything like that, but I'm just trying to mellow out the forms a little bit more. See, up here, like especially in that mountain range up there, the forms get a little bit too busy. So, you know, we'll make we'll bring up the background, and we'll just create as much contrast as needed, or decrease as much contrast as needed to do that. Yeah. Hello, Sandy. Good to see you. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for checking it out. This is, we're coloring this 11 by 17 here. And I started the coloring on this. This is about 5 minutes worth right here. I'm joking. It's a lot of coloring on here so far. All right, now what I'm doing is I'm just adding in some tone at the base of this ledge, okay? I'm finding that the black isn't transferring unless it's really dry, because I stamped out all of this on here before. Now I don't want to soak my ink pad too much, okay? Again, I don't want a big, you know, slathering of a black here. Let's see how this goes. Okay, that's better right here. The black, though, is fairly... the page is fairly saturated, so it's really giving me plenty of time to manipulate after I add it down. I can just spread it around very easily at this point in time. I thought it would be fairly dry. I didn't think I would have too much of a chance to manipulate after application like this, but you know, I don't know. We've been just adding in so much ink like that. But see this down here in the corner like that. It's just kind of, I don't know, manipulating lighting now through the use of, you know, stronger darks like that. Okay, you see this area right here. Maybe, yeah, maybe I'll leave some areas lighter like that just to differentiate a little bit more. So you see this one over here is a lot darker, but then you have this area of light like that. And what I've mentioned like previous videos is, you know, people are kind of drawn to like light areas. So if you do have this kind of this shaded area right here, and there's this area right here that's lighter, you know, you'd probably be drawn to it, you know, emotionally or something like that. And, you know, you'd want to go into that. And that's why I left these trees out of this area. So, you know, when someone looked at this scene, they would kind of be drawn to this area, and that's where they would go and sit down on the ledge or something like that. So I don't know. That's the theory there, at least. General Tso's for dinner. That sounds pretty good. That's General Tso's hot dogs, is it, Beth? Or something? No. All right, adding in. See this right here, you know? Remember? Oh, yeah. Okay, so remember, see how that blue, gosh, I got so much glare on this, it's so big. All right, see this, it just doesn't look right over here, but see that tinge of it right there? That almost looks like Prussian, like a straight Prussian blue if you put it on a white piece of paper like that. That fixes that area right there. So this really stands out kind of awkwardly, okay? But, you know, you come in there with your shading, your uniting uniform, your unification tone, okay? And usually if you stamp out your objects in black, I usually like to end up with that same color, black, even if it might be kind of a various shades of gray instead, you know, depending on how much you apply. Like that's like a 20% gray, and that's like a 30, I don't know, 25 and 10% gray like that, okay? But that same color will unify things a little bit more. Most of the time, unless you're doing something that's like super high noon and you just don't want to get, you know, too dark in anywhere. Mine often gets dark though, and it's for like a framing device, and for, I don't know, image uniformity or something like that. Stamping something in black, and you're adding the shadows in black, in other words, okay? All right, so bring this in. This area up top here is so much lighter, so I will come in here with a drier tap like that, okay? Hello, Shar. You didn't miss any of it, like we were just talking about. This is, you just missed like 5 minutes of coloring on this scene. All right, everyone's tired of that joke here. We've gone through, I don't know, there was like 5 different tones of blue, maybe more, something like that. In that water area, we've applied a base layer of, or I don't know, just a very light layer of a warm tone. And we have a little bit of that pinkish violet in the water to create a little bit of continuity between those spaces right there, okay? And what I'm doing here up top is I'm decreasing the contrast in some of the areas up here, just so that the sky area and that mountain range area just isn't quite so busy, you know, with forms in that space, okay? So that's what we do down here, and that's what I'm doing up here. Although I don't make things darker just for the purpose of making it darker. It often just, it obscures to some degree the imagery, because the imagery isn't standing out as much as it is in the lighter area. So we have some of it that looks like this, where the mountain tops are blended in a little bit more, and then we'll have some of those areas like that that'll stand out a little bit more, okay? All right, let's see. Let's come in from this side. And again, if you've watched my other videos in the past, one of the things that I mention on kind of the approach of a scene is seeing it more like a stage too, okay? Where it's just a world unto itself, and then, you know, if you're a lighting director or a director on a stage, you know, that you're pointing those spotlights within your stage, within your set, to emphasize something. You know, you emphasize where you want your viewers to look, and you darken in other areas where you don't want them to look. So that's what we're kind of doing here too. We're just kind of creating a little bit of a vignette, or you know, a lot of a vignette around the perimeter like that. Again, it's for compositional purposes. It tends to contain everything a lot more. And by going darker, though, you also make, by contrast, the areas that are lighter seem lighter by contrast like that. See that? So it's kind of come together a little bit more, you know, especially up in that mountain area, you know, where it was just super, super busy out there. Eating out. Your husband loves to eat out. What's your favorite place to go to? Laura's husband is cooking tonight too. Veal marsala. Ah. Any kind of nighttime sky events coming up, Laura? Like any significant ones that you guys are going to catch? Okay, so going a little bit darker here. Okay, now see, I've added some black around here, and it was very, you know, kind of a lighter gray. This area over here set up a little bit more, so I'm able to apply more of this tone, and it got darker, okay? So, you know, keep that in mind, you know, if you're applying a lot of inks like this, you know, you're going to be going into this like this, and at some point in time, especially on a quarter-page card where, you know, you're getting from one end of the card to the other end, like, instantly, because it's a smaller card to begin with, so allow your inks to set up a little bit, you know, in order for you to be able to apply them. I mean, you could heat set a little bit if you want to. There's that glare on there, but that's how dark this is getting like that. See this right here? How much darker it is on this side right here than on this side. You can even see my finger right there, probably. Oh, no, that's not a fingerprint. I thought it might be. right, kind of going along that edge of the water here on the lake. You guys are making me hungry. Jeannie had applesauce. I want to do some more kind of apple trees, like in spring or something like that, you know, with these blossoms. We're already into summer, of course, but is it ever too late to do like a, you know, a deciduous tree kind of in blossom or in fall splendor, you know? Kind of like now's the time to start doing, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit too early, but a lot of times people say, what do they call that? Christmas in, is it called Christmas in July? Or am I making that up in my head? Was that what it's called? You know, people start thinking about like Christmas cards. Back in the day when there was a lot of stores, you know, people started ordering all of their Christmas items as early as July because they figured a lot of times if they waited too long and ordered them like in October, they might not get them in time. You know, that was when, like, you know, places like these Marvies, you know, sometimes it was like a 2-month turnaround time when things were just like booming. All right, going into these mountains like this. I'm going to have to put the finishing touches on this at another time. Are you guys going to be on in 7 hours? I got to take my son to the gym here pretty soon. But I think we're almost there in terms of the color scheme here. I want to get, here's what I need to do. I need to put some areas up here of a little bit more intensity, okay? But down in the water, see, I'm going to mute some of this too with some additional black ink like this because it's just too bright. So I want the richness of it, but I don't want the extreme brightness of it, okay? So I'm going to mute it because it's just, it's not balanced. Not that everything in the background has to be as bright as something that's going on in the foreground, but I just want a slight, slightly more balanced surface here, or color scheme like this, okay? So adding that in, do you see where that's kind of, you know, that water area is starting to kind of get a little bit more, I don't know, kind of muted. And then, see, we're going to put like a little foggy type of effects with the pigment ink in here too, and that will do a lot towards that end of things like that. I think up here in the mountains too, I think alcohol inks too will be the thing to kind of come in here with, because the alcohol inks you can also use, especially since I'm using the glossy cardstock, you can lay those alcohol inks on there and just blend them out, you know, as needed too. All right, so eight, the equivalent of 8 quarter-page cards. I would say this is probably colored about 90% right here. Thank you, Char. Christmas in July, yeah. Fireworks over the lake. I don't think I've done that. That would be a good idea. Who just said that right there? I just lost the, that it just scrolled up beyond. Oh, yeah, Darcy, yeah. That would be a good thing, because then we can do the, not in this scene right here, but if you did like a lake like this and you did fireworks over it, you can have it reflected down in the water. I don't think I've done that. I've always done other things though. Everything like night sky things have always been in there like that. Candy, I don't do anything with these large scenes. I haven't sent any out to anyone because they're just so big. It would take like a gigantic mailer. They're more of just kind of like an exercise, but I still have, I don't have a lot of these though, you know, so you're saying what do I do with it? What do I do with the 5 that I've ever done in my life, you know, or 4 or something like that. It's just been so seldom. Sometimes the old Rubber Stamp Madness ads used to be fairly large, like this size or something like that, because they used to have that. It wasn't a tabloid size, but it was just a really gigantic magazine. Maybe it was, I don't know. Maybe slightly smaller though. But I don't know, you know, what am I going to do with this one? I don't even have like a mailer this size. I was telling someone they can fold it in half and have like a back and front card or something like that though, or something of that sort. I don't know. They're not very practical in terms of, you know, mailing out to someone. I guess if you framed it or something like that, you know, it'd be interesting to do. You know, you can get a frame. I was saying that because this is an 11 by 17, a 2-page spread, they might have, you know, these types of frames even at like an, I don't know if they'd have an Office Depot, but I would imagine like a Michaels would have something. And just you throw, you know, periodically you do a big scene like this if you have this size of paper, and then you just switch it out, you know, when you get tired of it, and just switch the scenes out and whatnot, or if it fades out or something like that. By the way, if you ever put something like this on display and it fades out, if you didn't spray seal it, you can always go over it again with some additional inks or something and regain the vibrancy. What you would do on this one is you would go in back with, you know, the summer sky or something like that, in that blue area. I'd go back with the lighter tones, or, you know, the Caribbean blue that was used in there. Some of the brighter tones, but still, you know, try to retain your light areas like that. And, you know, you should be able to reinvigorate the intensity levels of those colors in there just by going over it again like that. Put a rainbow across the mountains in the middle. Ah. Well, one of the things I want to do is, you know, when I come in air, that being said, I thought about putting some light beams in here. Coming over the top of that mountain range. So we'll probably do something like that. Oh, you popped out for being a moderator. You did that before too, huh, BJB? Thanks for checking it out, coming back again. I'm going to finish this off in a different video here. I got to run. But, yeah, the finishing touches on here. And plus, on this one right here, too, I'll kind of... figure out some additional media on here. Again, I think the pens, like, see, like this is perfect, right? You know, for that, like this color scheme right here. These are really similar colors that we've used in here. Not that I want everything to look real similar, but also coming in here into these rocks, you know, with a, you know, a gray tone like this, a darker gray tone in here, you know, just so that it's going to have to be darker. That didn't show up at all. I need to go find my other set of pens. This is my darkest gray right here in the Le Plumes, but I have a shuttle art set, I think it was. And we can come in here and do these types of things and get a little bit more kind of specific with our application of shadows. Yeah, I'm going to have to get, I don't know, this is probably like a 30% gray or something like that. It needs like a 60% apparently. Yeah. Wallpaper. Genie, yeah. I knew someone that did all 8.5 by 11s, and they absolutely wallpapered one of their walls, and they took photographs of it for me, and I have it up in their gallery. I always called it their wall of power. Okay. Let's see. Living on the lake, hearing the first fireworks boom. What, you're hearing it today? They have fireworks going off already? Huh. All right, folks. We'll finish this up. Maybe I'll finish this up tomorrow sometime. I'll figure out a good time for that. But anyway, thanks for joining in. Go and have your hot dogs and hamburgers. Not boiled ones, apparently, for people, you know, get them nice and browned up and whatnot. Someone was eating some, Laura was eating something else, I already forgot. But, yeah, have a good rest of night, day, afternoon, wherever you are. I don't know. So is anyone here internationally? I didn't see that scroll by if you are. But, yeah, have a great rest of day. I'd say, don't, you know, weekend, because maybe we'll see you back here tomorrow or something like that. Thanks for joining in. See you on the finishing video for this piece. All right. Good night, everyone.